it felt like those memes, where it's like the brain and then it gets more expanded and then it's just like light shooting out of a body and like cosmic awareness. That's what it
Oh
felt
yeah.
like. Yeah, it was great.
Coffee gave you a spiritual awakening.
Coffee and coffee and prescription amphetamines really took me
Sounds
to the
like
next level.
that sounds like a fantastic morning day.
I mean,
It
it was a
probably
whole
wasn't
day.
fantastic.
It lasted for about 16 hours. It was
Did
pretty
you feel like a
incredible.
superhero? Did you feel like I'm the Green Lantern? I can fly
Yeah,
through the universe.
it kind of felt like the rest of the world was operating in slow motion, and I was just like fucking
Oh, so you're in.
Quicksilver.
Yeah, I
I
was gonna
was
say. So you're in Quicksilver Flash mode.
100%. I was just like, guys, I'm operating on a different fucking level. You'll never understand. My friends were like,
Cut to the reality. It's just like you rolling around in dirt. Brother sibling. Well, why don't you start us off with the intro?
the motherfucking intro. Welcome, friends and chosen family, to Brother Sibling Movie, a podcast where two siblings, that's us, talk about movies from our childhood and some that we may be discovering for the very first time, centered around a different theme every season.
I'm your brother, Evan Kerna.
And I'm your sibling, Mer Morgan. And this week's movie is... Oh, I screwed that up. Do you want to do the movie title? Sorry.
Sure. Yes, actually, it makes sense because you have the line that I'm scared to say. And this week's movie... And this week's movie is Lilo and Stitch, a raucous ride through the imagination of American animator and illustrator Chris Sanders, who many of you might not know, but Mer and I sure do.
We know a lot about this dude. And the line that this is what happens when I nominate myself as being in charge of creating the outline, is that I get to say whatever like wild out of pocket shit in the outline, and then sometimes I see if I can get Evan to say it, and usually he doesn't. So what I wrote was all hail Queen Nani, the thickest milkshake to grace us with her presence. I love
and
you,
I was
Nani.
like, maybe neither of us should be talking about a young, exotic Hawaiian teenager like that, but you know
Probably
what?
not.
But you
Probably.
know what? If anybody's going to say it, I'm going to let Meredith say it.
Yeah. I mean, probably not, but still, like...
I actually brought up...
Oh, I put it in
I
here.
actually...
About Chris Sanders' sketchbooks.
Oh my God. Yes. I'm glad that you also want to bring that up.
I did, because I was like, Chris Sanders, I see you.
He's a horny man.
He has a
but
thing.
Also, like, when it comes to drawing, like life drawing, aren't like women just more fun and curvy and fluffy and soft? Aren't they just nicer to draw? I think so.
I think Michelangelo would have a couple words to say about that. All of those, like, quote unquote women on the
Michelangelo was gay as hell.
He was gay as hell.
Michelangelo loved
he was
cock.
so gay. He could not
get
enough
gayest.
of it. He was like, ew, gross.
Yeah,
just like
which
a
is
dude,
great. Way to go, Michelangelo.
Love it. We love a gay. We love a gay. So let's talk
I'm actually on the Disney Wikipedia because I'm trying to figure out how old Nani Pillai is.
She has
actually,
to be
they just say she's a young woman.
She has to be at least 18 to have been designated a legal guardian of a minor child. So right. I'm like, she's like 18 to 22, probably.
So I suppose she could still be a teenager, yes, but not an underage teenager.
No, but also sometimes just because something is legal doesn't make it right. Lilo and Stitch. It's the movie we're talking about today. Oh, we didn't say the theme of this season. This season's theme is siblings. Movies about siblings.
Woo!
Lilo and Stitch came out in 2002. I think June of 2002, somewhere around there.
Oh,
Um, so I was 12. I had just turned 12, in fact, in June of 2002. Little cutie. Um,
cute patoot.
and cute too. I looked like I
Scooting
was
your
about
boot with
9.
the cute patoot.
Did mommy bring you coffee?
She did. Aw,
Mommy
thank
brought
you.
you coffee. Thank you, mommy.
This episode brought to you by Marta Karna
By
and
Mama
Haute Couture
Marta's
Vintage Fashion.
special blend. Um, okay, so I was 12 when this movie came out, and I might have been like maybe a little too old for the target audience. I'm not really sure.
Well, then
Uh,
I was definitely too old.
yeah, I mean, I think this came out before I became like a completely pretentious fuckhead in high school. And I was like I don't watch things for kids. I only watch movies about like existential philosophy. Nah. Because
Really? Did you go through a phase like that?
I feel like I did. I don't know. Maybe I'm
I
mythologizing myself. I feel
yeah.
like
I don't think you were that cool to have gone through a phase like
that
that.
hold on. We should just really quick. Uh the thing that I just said about myself was not meant to imply that I was cool. I was not
Okay,
in
copy.
any way, shape, or form.
I will just
Um,
say that I never
but
went through a phase like
you
that. I
know,
I never stopped watching cartoons. I was like, cartoons are the
I know.
best. I don't care what anybody says. They rule.
I don't give a fuck. I know. And I think I just loved this movie from the jump. And I think part of the reason I loved it so much was the art style. The art style is very like roundy, for
Hmm.
lack of a better term. So yeah, the art's beautiful. The character designs are really interesting and cool and like kind of like different and weird, but not scary. And I think partially that is the art style.
The first thing I noticed this time since we start in outer space was how they modeled the alien creatures after the kinds of sea creatures you would see around
Yeah.
Hawaii. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, cool way to like dive to like set the audience up for the setting before even getting there. It was like
Yeah.
smart stuff, guys.
I love it. Well, when do you remember watching this movie? You would have been 15.
I honestly I don't remember when I watched it, but I remember I must have watched it pretty soon after it came out. Um, this was in that era of Disney films where this is sort of post Toy Story. Okay, whatever, for film history nerds. I'm saying that because it's Pixar was not part of Disney at the time, but Pixar created a kind of new paradigm in animated productions where they didn't have music. That was a big thing because before that, Disney movies were mainly musical movies, right? So this is an interesting sort of post musical Disney era, and it's really coming at the tail end of the height of Disney 2D animation. Like
Yeah.
shortly, very within the years after Lilo and Stitch, 2D animation starts to really get phased out at Walt Disney Animation,
And this
feature animation.
Lilo and Stitch came out at around a similar time as like Atlantis and The
Yeah,
Emperor's New Groove, which are
The
all
Emperor's
kind of
New
these
Groove was the year before. Yeah, and Dean
and I
DeBlois, whatever, the co-writer
yeah,
director of this movie was actually taken off of the production of Atlantis to work on this movie,
yes, to
to
work
work on
on this
Lilo and
film.
Stitch or whatever.
And it was this cool era in Disney when it was sort of this shift where Disney and Pixar were separate entities. 2D was phasing out, but in that kind of like last gasp almost of 2D animation at Disney. They created these movies that have like all three of those, Emperor's New Groove, Lilo and
Mhm.
Stitch, and Atlantis, all have a very different style of animation and drawing. And they're all really cool. They're all really cool and good and different and amazing.
All those movies you just mentioned were outside of the house style, right? And that was, I'm sure, intentional, because I
Hmm.
think they were scrambling to try to figure out, like, we have to revitalize, we have to try something, we have all these amazing artists, why not try to do something in their style? And to be fair, they had been kind of doing that a little bit with stuff like Hercules, which you could argue is a little bit more angular than traditional house style, but they were really
Yeah.
going out on a limb and trying new stuff at this phase, because they're like, we got to revitalize it, do something. So I'm glad that it created this movie, because it's also great. And watched it when I must have watched it when it came out. I know I was still watching a lot of animated feature films at the time, because this Lilo and Stitch was nominated for Best Animated Feature this year, going up against Spirited Away. So you could imagine how that
Oh, that's
went.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Spirited
Yeah,
Away,
come
just
on.
fucking incredible. So,
Fucking mop the floor with them. So, but this is still like really, really great. So,
yeah.
shall we do a
A plot
JPT
synopsis? A ChatGPT
synopsis?
synopsis? Yeah, let's do it.
In the Hawaiian Islands, a lonely young girl named Lilo Pelikai is struggling to fit in. I was waiting for you to do something stupid close to the mic and interrupt me. I could see
I
it in
decided
your
not
eyes.
to. I opted out. I read the room. I said no. But now I'm
In
doing it
the
anyway.
in In the Hawaiian Islands, a lonely young girl named Lilo Pelikai is struggling to fit in. After losing her parents, Lilo lives with her older sister, Nani, and the two are struggling to stay together as a family. Lilo adopts a mischievous, understatement of the century, strange creature she names Stitch, unaware that Stitch is actually a genetically engineered alien experiment designed to be destructive.
Stitch escapes from an alien spaceship and crash lands on Earth, where he inadvertently causes chaos. Lilo, who believes Stitch to be a dog, which, how the hell does that
How
happen?
the fuck? But all right.
Take takes him in, and the two form an unusual but close bond. Meanwhile, the alien authorities, led by the dog like alien agent Jumba and the bureaucratic Pleakley, are sent to capture Stitch and bring him back to their home planet.
As Lilo and Stitch grow closer, they both learn about love, friendship, and what it means to be part of a family. Through their adventures, starts to change from a mindless destruction machine into a creature capable of love and loyalty. Ultimately, the film highlights the importance of family, belonging, and redemption as Lilo and Stitch find their place together in the world. And cha-cha-pete.
Say it with me now. Ohana
Ohana
means
means
family.
family.
Family
Family.
means
No one gets
nobody gets left
left
behind
behind or
or
forgotten.
forgotten.
That was audio poison. Um, it's
I'll
all
just
good.
stitch it. I'll stitch it together with something else.
Okay.
Ohana means family. I wrote that all in capital letters in my notes.
I think I did too. Anyway, so that's the basic overall plot. It's an alien crash lands on Earth and is a little fucking monster. And this
Yeah,
really
so good.
adorable little girl is like best friend. It's kind of the thing of where like if you ever I don't know, the thing that sometimes you get where it's like that thing is friend shaped and I don't know why, but I like it. And like that's basically Lilo in a nutshell. Is her being
Yes.
like, oh, that
It,
weird blue like koala wombat dog with claws and like really sharp pointy teeth. I should probably like bring it home with me.
did you ever have anything, any creature or inanimate object or anything like that as a kid? You strike me as someone who would have had that, unless
Wait,
you
what do you mean?
did. Was there ever any creature or inanimate object in the world, in your world as a child, that was like, that is friend shaped, I'm bringing it home?
Oh, I mean, I can't think of a specific one, because our mother had a very strict no animals policy, but I do remember, uh, I had this doll that, was very weird looking and was really freaky, actually, now that I, like, look back on it, that I fucking loved.
Oh,
Fucking
that's
loved.
cool. I love
Uh,
that.
yeah, it was like this handmade 1940s doll with, like, yarn hair and this, like, crazy embroidered face. I named her Jamie. She was my favorite. Um,
Jamie. Jamie.
Jamie! Jamie! Uh, but yeah, so
Yeah,
I
wait. I was doing a Love Island person impression, but I meant to do a Claire
oh,
from
oh,
Outlander
yeah,
impression.
that's what I thought that's where I thought you were going, and then I was like, "Oh, wait, maybe it's
James
Jamie."
Fraser. Jesus H.
Ja
Roosevelt Christ.
we
Love
have
you,
to do a whole
Outlander.
we have to do a whole season of this show just on the first season of Outlander because it's a fucking buck wild show, and Evan and I love it. We love it.
You had better land this crazy plane, because I have watched every fucking season of your stupid show and I have to know how it ends. So please bring it in
Evan
for a landing well, you guys. They're in the last
Evan
season. I think they finished shooting the last season.
Evan has poured years of his life into your show
I
Outlander.
have, and I don't know why. This show is so stupid and dumb, but I can't get enough of it. I need to know more about Claire and Jamie.
I know, it's trash. Anyway, let's get back to
Anyway,
talking about Lilo and
yes,
Stitch
let's talk about
Outlander.
Lilo and Stitch. I'm stalling because I know I'm gonna fucking geek out on everything that has to do with the behind the scenes stuff of Lilo and Stitch. But let's get
Yeah,
into it.
so I was reading through your notes, which are always just a hilarious delight. Um,
for for anybody who is not caught up, and you wouldn't see them yourselves, you would only hear Meredith commenting on them. But yes, my notes are usually taken on my iPhone or on an audio recording that I
I
do,
was
and
speed to text.
I'm not really looking at the spelling. Things get all out of place. My thumb is big and awkward and hits the return key when it doesn't need to. So, yes, my notes end up looking like E. E. Cummings on speed writing poetry.
It's really great, but we did get the you were talking about Chris Sanders and what he had previously done in his life, and you did
Yeah.
I did get the beautiful was a character designer for Jim Henson's Mullet Babies.
Mullet babies.
Babies!
Oh my god, I
And I
want to
was
watch
like,
Mullet
suck that
Babies.
mullet baby. Don't you wanna watch Mullet Babies?
Hell
Sounds
yeah, I want to see
incredible.
Mullet Babies.
Sounds
That's great. I
fucking
didn't even look
amazing.
back at that sentence, so I didn't know where it was going. I'm so happy that I made Mullet Babies a thing.
Mullet Baby. I almost corrected it, and then I was like, I can't. I just have to do this. So,
Mullet Babies is
um,
too good.
who is this guy that we've been talking about? Right? He co-directed Lilo and Stitch. He wrote it. It's his original concept. Um,
Yeah, and you
he.
would know him nowadays from also being with the Dean DeBlois is the co-writer of How to Train Your Dragon, the first
Yep.
one in that series, which Dean went on to make the rest of and became a hugely successful franchise. Chris Sanders also was involved with oh my god, I forgot this middle stuff, but he made the Wild Robot this last year,
Oh yeah.
which was another big box office success and things like that. So he just keeps on hitting with the wins, you know.
Yeah, and he'd worked at Disney for a long time. He started there in 1990, I think.
Hmm.
He started on The Rescuers, and then he did storyboards for Beauty and the Beast, for The Lion
Yeah.
King. He was
Hmm.
the head of story for Mulan.
Yeah.
Um, and he had basically, apparently, when he was graduating from Cal Arts in Southern California, he had this idea in the mid late 80s for the character of Stitch, and he wanted to make it into a children's book. kind of nothing happened with that. He started working in the Disney animation studio system. And then in the late 90s, 97 or 98, he was on some retreat, like with the people of Disney Animation Studios. Um, and the
Yeah,
VP
Eisner, the
of,
whole 9 yards.
yep, the whole nine. And the VP of Disney Animation basically was like, hey, Chris, like, what idea do you have? Like, you're next in the roster. We want the next movie to be yours. Um,
He also said he wanted it to be like the Dumbo for the new generation.
yeah, for new generation, and was really like, and the one main stipulation was, we want you to direct, this movie, blah blah blah, but it has to look like it was drawn by you, right? They were again deviating from that Disney look. This is again when they're trying to find their voice, find their new thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, he like made this 20 odd page pitch book over the course of 3 days and kind of
Yeah,
worked out this story, which is insane. But
sounds
that is,
fun. That's all I want to do.
I am now gonna listen to Evan geek out about animation for the next 15 to 55 minutes. Evan, the floor is yours.
Sure. Well, I don't know how deeply I will get into it exactly, but yeah, I just would say that one of the things that I noticed this time that, um, okay, a little intro to how the story got made. I think this is an interesting factoid. So, yeah, Chris Sanders, like many people who are, you know, writer illustrators, had, as you said, conceived Stitch as a children's book as an idea. And at the time, it was like this creature of unknown origin interacting with other animals in the forest, which kind of comes back around with the wild robot, which is all that what that's about. Disney VPs get a hold of it and are like, you need to put humans in this. I'm sorry.
Sorry, buddy.
So yeah, Chris Sanders sort of pivots, and because of the nature of the story, they didn't have Hawaii when they started out, right? They when
Mhm.
they started out, it just needed to be kind of like a, I think it was originally going to be Kansas or something, but
Yeah, it was supposed to
through
be in the middle of nowhere, kind of isolated.
yeah, yeah, because of course Stitch wants to destroy things, so he has to be separated from major cities and stuff like that. So anyway, through some reasoning, I think just because on a whim by Chris Sanders, they thought of Hawaii, which works great, and what the importance of Hawaii really as a setting influences everything else about this movie. I mean, obviously with the story, like they didn't even have Ohana when they started doing it. They figured that part of the story out on research trips. But with the art style, it is it's encouraged in that way too, because Hawaii is such a lush and light place with like so much sunlight that they decided early on to make the background paintings out of watercolor. Normally, they would have used gouache, which is really interesting. Gouache is maybe a little easier to work with for background artists, but watercolors just give that kind of sense of lightness and softness that I think it works really well with Chris Sanders' style. Also, interestingly, watercolor background paintings are a throwback to old production methods, like Snow White, Dumbo, all those early, like the first 3 or 4 Disney animated features are all watercolor background paintings. So it requires a totally different kind of, I mean, whatever. Drawing is drawing, but when it comes to painting, like watercolor is one of the more difficult things to master. And I guess I'm sure there were people who knew watercolors inside and out, but
Well,
much of the
that
production staff had to get trained on it for this film, which I think is awesome and crazy.
it is awesome. And I would also, the reason that gouache is a lot easier to work with backdrops is because it is opaque, and if you make a mistake, you can paint over it. If you fuck up
Right.
a
Hmm.
watercolor, you get a
That's
fresh
it.
sheet of watercolor paper and you start again.
Yeah.
So it is beautiful backgrounds that are very precise, that are gorgeous
Mhm.
landscape paintings that are in watercolor, and it does lend a certain, because like watercolors look so vibrant because the light is reflecting off the white of the
Yeah.
paper
Of the
through
paper,
those
right.
through the
Yeah.
pigment of the paint, and so you get
Yeah.
these really, like, beautiful luminous, colors, which is really cool, and it's awesome, and it just, like, and it's also, like, watery and kinda, it has the vibe.
Yeah, it totally works with the style of this movie. So this is not unique to this film, but I really noticed it this time that like so A, Chris Sanders' style is very curvy, right? There's not a lot of right angles, there's not a lot of hard edges. Everything feels like a curve, and the line art, the outlines of the characters, instead of having black outlines on the characters in this film, which would be the sort of typical cartoon style, this whole movie, like if it's a if Nani's wearing a blue pair of pants, then the outline of those pants, the outer bounds of the cartoon image, is also dark blue. Same with
Mhm.
her skin and all these things. So again, that's not unique, but they really do it with almost every character and every object in the animation in this, which I think is really cool. It also lets things blend together in a way, and it gives it that luminous quality of like Hawaii. So I think that was really, and it gives it a soft look, which I think works with Sanders's line art style.
Yeah, Chris Sanders also just he's been writing and drawing for a long time, but if you have the chance, I would highly recommend checking out some of his sketches for Lilo
Mhm.
and Nani and Stitch, because the various art that he has, it's funny because you kind of are looking at these things of like Lilo's hand like in different positions doing different
Mhm.
things, and there's no all these notes on it of like, no, her palm has to be rounder and like pudgier, and like her fingers
Mhm.
need to be shorter, and like, so it's even within that he's kind of manipulating it to be like, no, softer, rounder,
Yeah.
and the who was it? It was like the head of
Everybody's a pillow.
Everybody's a Pillow, but it was like the head of visual storytelling at Disney. I can't remember what her name is. Basically created it was some like lookbook.
Oh yeah. Surfing the Sanders way or whatever.
Yeah, surfing the Sanders style, and it was
That's yeah.
all like, "Do this, not this. Legs look like
Yeah.
this. Hands look like this. Shins
Mhm.
look like this." Which is really
Yeah.
cool because it shows the
Yeah.
level of, like, they really wanted to keep his art style, the integrity of his art style throughout the entire film.
Totally. Yeah. I was wandering around Comic-Con one year and found my way to his booth, and as Mir and I both know, he has s- sketchbooks and sketchbooks and sketchbooks full of beautiful, thick, exotic women, and ooh, they're very nice to look at. I was
Whew!
like, all right, Chris, I see where
Alright,
you're
Chris,
coming
I see
from.
you.
I see
I
what you
see
like.
you.
So
You like a thick
Nani's
queen.
definitely not a one-off.
No, no, she's definitely not a one-off. But even with all of so many of the characters, have this sort of bottom heaviness, like, a lot of the
Hmm.
aliens kind of, like, go out to have bigger legs and feet, and a lot of the
Yeah,
spaceships have this very, like, rounded bottom edge, and, like,
yeah. Even
y you know
Clunky or whatever the hell his name is, the
Pleakley! Pleakley has,
Plinkly,
like, a
Bleakley.
little, like, octopusy kind of body,
He's
but he's,
kinda
like,
yeah. Even he who is, like, supposed to be a skinny a stick character still has an eggplant-shaped, like, bottom half,
he got a
it's
he
still
got a
kinda, like,
dump
rounded
truck.
out. He
He
sure
got a
does, yeah.
he has an octopus dump truck. Um, but yeah, it's a beautifully animated film, and it does stick out, I mean, for all of the reasons Evan has just, elucidated,
Mhm,
and it's cool too because you don't see many. I think a lot of alien stuff, alien, off-world, whatever, has
mhm,
this tendency, and, kind of like sci-fi and all of that, has this tendency to go very angular, and everything is like hard edges and sharp lines, and, you know, that is the language. It's very geometric. But it's
Yeah.
really cool because it makes, I mean, like, there's little aliens and, like, control boosts that kind of look like Winnie the Pooh characters, and they're adorable.
I
And
know. I
even
like that little aardvark looking
the little
character in the
oh, it's so
beginning.
cute. And even their, like, ray guns, instead of,
Yeah.
like, a Star Wars blaster that's, like, pew, pew, straight out, these kind of, like, bloop out, like, it's
Yeah.
like a
Mhm.
plasma cannon or something. Um,
Totally.
and it's very enjoyable to watch. Like, it's just a very,
Totally.
visually enjoyable film.
Yeah. I would say, interestingly, this has more to do with the tone of the movie. There is there is something that I uh like the movie is perfect as it exists, but for my personal taste, I kind of recognize that there's a part of me that like wants the movie to be, because you feel it going to this place of like being kind of like punk rock and weird and like, and it is, but
Yeah,
sometimes it like softens the edges a little bit. Like it's
yeah.
like there are some jokes that are like laugh out loud funny, and there are some that are kind of like they pulled the punch a little bit, and it's like a dad joke version of the thing it could have been.
It's a Disney
And of
movie for
course,
children.
no, I know, and I that's why I'm saying, like, the movie's
Yeah,
perfect just the way it is, and it should
yeah.
be this way. I'm just saying that I do think that there is clearly kind of like a almost Calvin and Hobbes influence. Like, I kind of wish that Lilo was, like, even more demented when he gets to his,
Being
like,
Stitch.
destructive capacity or whatever, the same way that in Calvin and Hobbes, like, his fantasies of things are like flying an F-18 and like blowing up his school. Where it's like there's it's like so far out there. But
Right.
um but I also totally understand, like I think that but whatever things where I feel like they didn't take it far enough, or they went too it went too soft as a dad joke. I don't think those are studio notes. I think that is Chris Sanders and maybe Dean DeBlois for, I think they are like, I think that as their storytelling instincts are innocently charming. So I think
Mhm.
it's exactly the way it should be. Like, despite some of my wishes for them to take some of the gags even farther to like be even more
Yeah.
crazy and out there and demented, but I think it's a beautiful like movie as it is. And yeah, but and I think it all comes from Chris Sanders's art style, really, like it all, because
Mhm.
everything has this soft and pillowy feel to it, even in the tone of the story, which I respect.
It is very sweet and still, like, deals with some pretty heavy subject matter, because you know
That is, see, that's exactly. So like and that's why I just wish that sometimes it's like, oh man, they like dialed it back to being a kids movie, because some of the scenes are so like, wow, that was like really like good movie scene.
Yeah,
And then other scenes, it's like we're playing hot potato when it's like the hottest, when it's like the biggest moment in the movie. I'm like, come on, like the logic doesn't. I mean, it's funny, but it's
it is
like,
funny.
it doesn't, like, I don't know, it doesn't live within the logic of the world. Whatever. I'm
Right,
thinking about it too much, but I
I know.
do. But I do love those scenes, like when Lilo and, I mean, talking about siblings now, right? The first scene where you see Nani and Lilo interacting in the house, like that's a great
Oh,
example
yeah.
of, oh yeah, they did a great job sort of really characterizing each of them and opening on a fight between the two of them, so you see what their sister dynamic is right away.
Right, exactly, and so let's do a little character rundown real quick, and then we
Yeah,
can maybe talk about a few things. So,
I love
um,
it.
we're gonna talk in depth about, like, kind of the 3 main characters, Lilo, Nani, and Stitch, with some other kind of things thrown in there. So, okay, Lilo, voiced by Davy Davia Chase? Don't know how to say your name. Sorry. Lilo, she's, like, 8, maybe? I don't really know. Uh,
Might even be 7.
might even be 7. She's just, like, a wild little kid. She's, idiosyncratic is a nice way of putting it. she is dealing with her own trauma and problems of like she has lost both of her parents. Her sister is her guardian. Those are big life things. And she deals with it by being a fucking weirdo. And I love her.
Yeah,
You
what does she
know,
say about her doll to her friend? She's like, I got her from the morgue or
no,
something.
she's like, I made her. I filled her head with eggshells. It makes her head kind of squishy, but I just pretend that like insects got in there and laid eggs, which is why her head is too big. And I was like, you're my favorite.
Total psycho child. I love it.
Total Psycho Child. And like your first introduction to her is showing up to a hula dance class, and she's late because she had to give Pudge the fish a peanut butter sandwich because it's Wednesday, and on Wednesday she gives Pudge the fish a sandwich, but they were out of peanut butter, and so her sister told her to put tuna in the sandwich, and tuna is fish, so how is she supposed to feed fish to a fish? That's crazy. So she had to go to the store to get peanut butter to give Pudge the fish a sandwich, a peanut butter sandwich.
Because Pudge controls the
Pudge
weather.
controls the weather. That is why this is important. And I was like, I'm there. I got you. I
I'm with
understand.
you. I'm with you, girl. Sometimes you gotta feed the fish that controls the weather.
Yeah, exactly. And and I think I don't want to speak too out of turn, but as children that were homeschooled by hippie parents, I feel you and I both have had experiences of being the weird kid that no one wants to talk to in different
Right.
situations in our
Yeah,
lives
definitely.
when we were younger. Um, but it
Hmm.
sucks, that still sucks. It sucks to be a weird kid and not feel like you have friends or anybody that you can connect with.
Yeah.
Um, and like also goddamn, like I remember when I was a kid so many times being like, why do I have to hang out with people my age? They all suck. They're not interesting.
Hmm.
I just don't like them. Like they're so
Uh,
mean and I
poor,
don't
interesting child who
I just
had
was
better things to do than interact with the plebeians. And that's where Lilo comes in as a character that we can identify with because she's the kind of kid who can't help being herself, which unfortunately ostracizes her. And as you said, she's definitely dealing with some fucking crazy trauma and dealing with it
yeah,
in the way that is reasonable for a kid to deal with it with their imagination, but it also ostracizes her. And of course, no matter how much of an indoor of a book reader, whatever kid you are, you still people are social. We're social creatures. You still need a
yeah.
friend,
You want
and
friends.
and
Friends are
and
great.
and she even says like I don't like I to Nani. It's like you are different than a parent. You're different. Like I don't like you as a parent. I like you as a sister. And but that also means that, at that age she's also not a friend per se. She has to be a caretaker as well as a sister. So it
Yeah.
makes sense that Lilo is like looking for a friend, somebody who she actually connect with in that
Yeah,
way.
companion. And so that brings us to Nani, who is Lilo's older sister,
Hmm.
um, voiced by Tia Carrera. So yeah, she's I wrote here, Nani is the very definition of biting off more than you can chew. She's
Hmm.
Lilo's legal guardian, and it's clearly not what she envisioned for her life. She's doing the best she can, but come on, if you were like 20 and in charge of a willful younger sibling after the unexpected death of your parents, would you be thriving? No, no. She's doing the best she can. She's doing what she can.
Yeah, Nani is juggling so much for a young woman, a young person, and it's a lot. She's in Hawaii, man. She should be like footloose and fancy free. She should be like, trying to get David's number. She should be like having her
Ow!
own having her own apartment. She should be like whatever, trying out dumb jobs that don't work out, but she has this burden of responsibility to her sister who she loves but is a handful, and is trying to make it work as best she can. And she and Lilo still have their sister dynamic where they annoy the hell out of each other but obviously love one another very deeply.
Yeah, like you're saying, the kind of opening to them interacting is Nani knows that a social worker is coming for a home visit, which like is a terrifying prospect if you are a young person and the if this doesn't go well, the option is like you lose custody of your sister. Um
Mhm.
and Lilo is being a bit of a handful. Um her
Yeah.
and
In that
Nani.
troublemaking way, like, I know I'm not supposed to say that I'm getting disciplined, but this is funny because
This is funny
I'm a
because I
child
don't
and nothing I say have consequences yet.
yeah, I don't understand the larger context of this, but they're like as soon as the like social worker leaves and it like has not gone well, Nani just like chases Lilo throughout the house and they're like screaming at each other and just like in each other's faces. And I was like, yep, accurate, 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 accurate.
Yeah, there's something about that that's so funny because it's like, I think this is what the social worker was talking about.
Yep.
The thing that
Because
you shouldn't do.
well, and it was so
But
funny
it's
too.
but like they're sisters. Like what like it's
Well,
like
and it was
that's what you do.
Well, and it was so I was thinking about this because I was like, if a parent did that, deeply uncool. Like, don't chase a small child around the house threatening to put her in a blender. Um, and like, don't like grab her in a blanket and like grab her arm and yell at her. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's not cool. That's really bad. And that is when CPS like should be called. Um, but it's your sister. Nani and Lilo are trying to navigate a different dynamic that neither of them really wants the other to have. Like they want to be sisters and they want to be close, but
Yeah,
adding this like parental responsibility on top of it is just like stressing everybody out and it's not an overall good situation
totally. Yeah.
for everybody. Because yeah, I was like, it
Nani's doing the best she can.
in that same way, so when you and I we're gonna take a little sibling story time trip really quick. This
Oh,
reminds
into
me
the
of
Wayback Machine.
Into the Wayback Machine. Several years ago when you and I were in Ireland together, we were in this bar, we were having a drink, and we were trying to like write a limerick or something, and like Evan was being an unholy terror about
Well,
it.
look. Eddie Vedder was in the book with a
Oh my
poem,
god. Oh my
and
god.
he had written this beautiful like poem and taken up a whole page, and I was furious, and I was like, we have to out poem Eddie Vedder.
Yeah, yeah. To chuckle
So
fuck
the stakes were
California.
high, okay?
Well, the stakes were high, the Guinness was flowing, and at one point, I, like, did something that pissed Evan off, and Evan is my brother, but sometimes when Evan and I travel together, people don't realize that we are siblings, and they think that we are a couple, and
Mhm.
so, when Evan turned to me in, like, a drunken,
What did
jealous
I
rage
say?
over
What did
this
I
Eddie Vedder
say?
poem, you said, "Shut the fuck up," and you threw a pen at me so so hard, which, like, I
Oh man.
immediately, because like, in my brain, I was like, "Evan's being a little bitch, I'm gonna smack him," and then I realized, and I verbalized to you, "Hey, Evan, you need to cool it because you look like an abusive husband right now, and people are about to be called. They don't realize I'm your younger sibling. They don't get
Right.
that you're my brother. That's not
Mhm.
immediately apparent. You look like a horribly abusive piece of trash. You need to cool it."
Oh man. I
Dude,
was just thinking like it would be funny if I threw this pen at Meredith right now.
to be fair, it was
Ah.
funny. I was also, though, very immediately aware that everybody in the
No, you
bar
had
just
a
turned to look at us, and I had to be like, "Ha ha ha, brother. My brother is being crazy. Brothers, am I right? Brother, brother." Because there's a level of physical violence
ah,
that is not okay, but it falls in a gray area when it's your sibling. There's a gray
right.
area of physical violence that does not exist in any other relationship because hitting is never okay.
It's true. Well, I
But
apologize. I was too
but
drunk, and I was waiting. That whole trip, I was just waiting to get in a fight in an Irish bar,
oh
so I
god,
was
Evan,
probably just,
don't
like
fight
I was
anybody.
probably waiting. I was like, "Come on, come at me. I'm abusive to people. Fight me."
What would you have done in a physical altercation, Evan?
Gotten the shit kicked out of me. That's
Okay,
what I would
good.
have
I was
done.
just wondering, I was like, were you envisioning that you would get in a fight and win? Because like, that's not how I see that going.
Not with an experienced Irish bar fighter, no.
No, no, no. Okay, anyway, sorry. All that to say, that little fun sidetrack was to say that, like, sibling relationships, as we've said many times this
Are
season,
fun.
they exist in a fully different sphere that does not exist with other people that you have in your
True,
life. Like,
true.
there is nobody else that could have written me a birthday card that says, and I quote, "Welcome to 34, cunt maggot," and I would have been like, "Aw, he loves me." But Evan did that. Um,
I'm always thinking about what's gonna make you laugh.
it's really it. You wrote me a birthday card for my 34th birthday. I have it pinned up against my wall. That's why I'm looking up here. It says, "Sup,
Mhm.
bitch. Hope you like your present, ho. Welcome to 34, cunt maggot. Love you, dickhead." it
Hell
made me
yeah.
it made me laugh so.
Good. That was
It
that was the intention. I was not trying to get a rise out of you,
no,
obviously.
it made me laugh so hard that I took it home and I posted it up in my office. It's on my wall. I think it's so funny.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Don't act
Nani's
like that in
great.
public,
She's
kids.
fantastic.
In the sanctity of your own home in the Hawaiian countryside is the appropriate place for that kind of behavior.
It's the appropriate place for that behavior. Um, but yeah. Also, the cool thing, one thing that I will say that is like actually real and not just about weird ramblings about siblinghood. So Tia Carrera lives in Hawaii, and the guy that voiced David, her kind of like love interesty character, is a native Hawaiian. And both of them have very strong ties to the Hawaiian Islands, and they actually worked with
Mhm.
the writers and script supervisors to kind of put more Hawaiian like dialect and inflection and language and more like
Mhm.
uh more reality into those characters, which I think is really cool because like you do get the sense that it's like, oh yeah, no, those that's like a native, you know, Hawaiian accent, different than
Yeah, I
a
appreciate
white
that the
person.
whole movie Yeah, I appreciate that the whole movie clearly has a sort of respect and interest in representing Native Hawaiian culture as it exists, as it
Yeah,
existed in 2002 in an fairly accurate way. They weren't just using
yeah,
them as it's not just a backdrop on which to throw a bunch of stuff that writers in Los Angeles don't understand about those
right.
people. It felt like they took the care, and I think Disney Animation is actually kind of pretty good at that over the last few decades. For the most part, they have a lot of. I mean, these days they have a lot of sensitivity, trainers that want to make sure that you get it right. But I do think that that the people in this world have a very genuine the people making this movie had a very genuine desire to get it right
Yeah,
and to do what it took to uh, expand upon what makes Hawaiian culture. I mean, even just the concept of ohana means family,
yeah,
and that the concept of extended family was something that they learned about when they went to Hawaii on research trips, and it
yeah.
became the entire kind of like
Ethos of
gelling
the film.
point
Yeah.
theme of the entire film. We'll be right back.
Wait, we need to talk about the, as you said accurately, titular character.
Mhm.
Stitch, or Experiment 626.
Yeah, let's talk about Stitch. Experiment 626.
Voiced by Chris Sanders, which is
Mhm.
really cute. Apparently, his Stitch voice is just a voice that he used to use around the Disney studios to annoy people, being
Yeah.
like, "Oh, Hannah means Beverly. Hello, this is Chris. Could you get me back?" or whatever. And I was like, "Yep, that seems accurate."
If my
Um,
coworker was saying shit like that around me, I would also be annoyed.
yes, same. Except usually I'm the one doing it and is kind of the annoying one. He's this alien. He's genetically engineered to be just chaos incarnate and
Yeah,
destroy everything he sees. He kind of looks like a koala, wombat, red panda thing. Not a dog, really. Kind of, I guess. He has technically 4 legs. He actually has 6 legs. Whatever. Um,
I know, and he can mash them in and out of his
he
body.
can, yeah, he can morph what he looks like.
Sorry,
He
I was just thinking about the way that the uh oh god, what's his name in How to Train Your Dragon? Fang or whatever. The dragon in How to Train Your Dragon.
toothless.
Toothless. Yes, there you
Yeah.
go. How you can really see the begin where
Mm.
the character design of Toothless,
That's interesting,
the
yeah.
beginnings of it in the design for Stitch. I think there are similarities. I mean, they're obviously quite different characters, but you could see
But
that
they
kind of
have the big
cute
mouths and they're
face
kinda
and the
stubby legs and, like,
big
yeah,
eyes. Yeah,
big
yeah,
eyes.
yeah,
Yeah, Stitch is ostensibly, like, a scary creature, but he's also really cute, and he has big ears, and his ears are, like, part of how he, like, shows emotion. It's really cute.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
fucking
They clearly
adorable.
did a lot of good work on, as Disney animation does, of observing animal creatures. That this thing, uh, it's a cool combination of features of different animals, right? Because obviously,
Yeah,
yeah, there's like the kind of koala face, and he's a little like a bear, like a tree
right,
bear. He acts like a dog to seem like a dog to people,
right.
but then when he's really alien and moves around and crawls, he's like a
Like
cockroach. He
he,
kind of
like,
like like
skitters.
flits around and skitters, and yeah, it's a cool characterization. And I think Stitch is a big, you know, there's there's a lot of weird, disparate kind of elements of this movie that seem like they shouldn't work together, but they end up working great together.
Yeah, um, and so I just, wanna give a little shout out. We've spoken of them before, but, uh, Stitch reminds me very much of my, my dear ex-spouse, Sean, small, ornery, really only likes 1 or 2 people, and may respond with either hostility or, like, sweetness and cuddles, kind of at a moment's notice, and you're not really sure which one. I remember
Nice.
showing them Lilo and Stitch when so I Sean is 6 years older than me, so when I was 12, they were 18, and so they just didn't see it
See this
ever.
movie, yeah.
They just
Hmm.
never it was just, like, not on their radar.
Totally.
And
As a
so
person who would have been following, like, Warren Ellis comic books at the time,
yeah,
it makes sense that you
exactly.
wouldn't be getting
Was
into Lilo and
not,
Stitch.
was not the vibe, was not the
Mm-mm.
vibe.
Yeah.
Um,
Preacher, Lilo and Stitch.
yeah, exactly, that was kind of the dichotomy, and so, we had I can't remember, one day we were talking about something. I was like, "Oh my god, you haven't seen Lilo and Stitch? Wait, you have to watch this." Because
Mhm.
I was like, "Sean, I don't think you understand, like, you are Stitch.
I
Like,
think you're gonna recognize something
I
in
think
the
you're gonna see
characters.
yourself," and they fell in love with it, and it was like,
And he's
"No,
like, "Is it any of the humans?" And you're like, "No." Like, "Got it. Okay."
no. It's a teeny alien creature, that is funny,
Genetically
and
engineered for
love."
destruction and chaos.
Sean, I love you. You're still one of my favorite people. Very dear friend of mine now.
Yeah,
Um
Sean, you're the best.
You're the best. We love you. But anyway, yeah, Stitch is really hilarious. He has these like cute little feet and like I said, the big ears. He's very it's very funny to me when very, very small things are like agents of chaos because he really is. He's like this indestructible war machine, and he's like 3 feet tall, maybe. And it's
Yeah.
just really cute and endearing. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
hit the
It
thing.
reminds me of there's a moment from the TV show The Fairly Odd Parents where Timmy the kid asks his fairly odd parents, i.e. the fairy godparents, he's like, you can make anything, you can figure out what anybody's thinking, and he's like, I wonder what that cockroach is thinking, and then they zap him with a little magic thing to hear the cockroach's thoughts, and the cockroach is like, world domination. And then the rest of the episode features the cockroach like getting an army of cockroach people
Fuck
together
yeah.
and yeah, taking over the world and shit. It's very funny. But
Fuck
yeah, that's
yeah.
exactly the kind of vibe that Stitch brings to the
Yes.
proceedings. Just like, yeah, small thing with a lot of destructive power and interest and chaos thrown inside.
Yes. But also, as he is on Earth longer, and it's like, and Lilo is really like, you've got to be a better person. I'm going to make you like Elvis because he's the
Hmm.
pinnacle of everything, which is very funny.
I know. I want to talk a little bit more before the end of this pod about like why we think Elvis was the choice and why Elvis
I know.
works in this world. Because I'm like, it does work, but
It
I don't know
does.
why, like,
I don't either. I think it's because um it's
well, for
like
one
with
thing,
this.
Elvis has a close connection with Hawaii just
Right,
through his
right,
whole sort of uh, mythology and
right.
the media that was made with him in it for many years. So there's that
Right.
aspect.
But I think it's also just kids get obsessed with weird stuff
That's true. Hmm.
for no reason because like Lilo's obsessed with Elvis music, which I'm like, sure, why not? Like you're a very strange child. Um,
Uh-huh.
like why wouldn't you be obsessed with it? But yeah, so like over the course of the movie, Stitch kind of, grows to understand what like family is and how to help people and how to be a helpful being instead of just being this agent of destruction. And it's really cute and very sweet. And he's like, I'm lost at one point because he's like, oh no, baby, little
I
Age.
know. He reads the book of the Ugly Duckling, which was
Yeah.
like, and he's looking for before he finds the book of the Ugly Duckling, he's looking through Lilo's bookshelf for other books that
Yep.
because they're like, as a if you're gonna be like a good normal person, like you have to have, I don't know how she puts it, like you have
Yeah.
to have interests or something.
Yeah. Or
And
like,
so he's looking at all these crazy books that are just like, oh man, I forget the titles of them, but one of them is just like road maps of Iowa.
yeah, it's just crazy, weird
It's just
shit.
crazy books. He's just like, okay, they threw a couple good gags in there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so Stitch is really hilarious. It is just a little literal chaos monster.
Yeah.
But he's like very sweet and endearing. And then so there's a few other kind of ancillary characters. There's human characters. There's David, who is just like this hot sweetheart who has a
Yeah.
total thing for Nani.
Sweetheart Hawaiian surfer living
Yeah,
his life.
babe, who wouldn't have a thing for Nani? Like, we've already discussed it. I get it. But
Yeah.
he's really sweet and just like a good dude. And then there's Mr. Bubbles, played by Ving Rhames, who
The
is
social worker.
the quote unquote social worker, but looks like a in Men in Black. Like he looks like Ving Rhames, like the character.
Right. He
And
looks
it's
just
just
like him.
and it's
Yeah.
just huge. And like one of the first things that Lilo says when he like is like, "Hi, I'm Mr. Bubbles." She looks at him and is like, "Your knuckles say Cobra." It's just like never addressed again. It's very funny
Yep.
to me. Um,
Nothing gets past a kid.
no. And then there's other alien characters. So there's Jumba, who is the creator of Stitch. He's the genetic, like, mad scientist who created him.
Yes.
There is
Coded as the evil, wild, mad
Russian,
Russian scientist.
evil Russian scientist. There's Pleakley,
Hmm.
um, who might honestly be my favorite character in this whole movie. I love him. Um, he is this like crazy high-strung nerd who is just like not built for the world or the universe. It was just like, you are a gullible idiot and you're crazy and I love you. You're fantastic. Uh there's the Grand Councilwoman of the like Galactic Federation or whatever, who has like one of the coolest character designs ever. I think she's has such a cool character design. And then there's
Yeah.
Captain Gun too, who's kind of the, I don't know, the only real like bad guy, quote unquote, in this movie. I guess
Yeah.
Jumba kind of is too.
Everybody turns on a dime. They're like, as soon as we remembered it was a kids movie, we turned everybody into having a good heart, except for the
Yep.
big angry shark man who has
Except for
to
that, yeah.
fucking
Except for that one. And if if I may be so bold, to just go on a quick
please.
little rant here. So the
Oh yes.
part of the reason when
There's
Stitch
a
first
yeah,
lands
sorry, you explain.
when Stitch first lands on planet Earth, the Galactic Federation is like, "Oh my god, we have to like explode the planet because this thing is gonna like destroy everything." Which seems odd, but whatever. And then Pleakley comes running out and is like, "No, you can't do that. That is that's the home planet of a protected species. The main humans are the main food source for this endangered creature called the mosquito." And like starts talking about how great mosquitoes are. And then
Yeah.
and then and so it's this kind of running gag, right? That he's like obsessed with mosquitoes because there's this like quote unquote like rare endangered species and humans are their main food source. And so we have to protect the humans to protect the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Um, and I would just like to say, I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant here. Okay, Pleakley, you and me, man. Mosquitoes are an actual scourge upon this earth. They are the worst thing on this planet. They are attracted, specifically have evolved to be attracted to octanol, lactic acid, and ammonia, which are all compounds, chemical compounds that are found in human sweat. Um, they also, when they bite you, they produce a numbing agent so you do not feel them bite you. So that numbing agent is also an anticoagulant. So they numb you and you don't know that they're biting you until they're like done. And by the time you feel the sting, you already are injected with this gross, disgusting mouth vomit anticoagulant that allows them to feed. And that's what makes you itch. That's what's itchy in the like mosquito bites. Um, I just I hate them. They are goddamned everywhere in Virginia. They just are. They cover this state in a blanket for like 6 months of the year. Um, they're like tiny little vampires. They vector diseases. They take your blood, and the only reason they take your blood is to feed their babies and make more of the evil lying disasters that they are. Kill them all. I hate them. I understand that species ecology is very important, and I know that if you eradicated mosquitoes, you would like fuck up some kind of ecosystem, but also fuck mosquitoes. I hate them so much. I want to burn them all to the ground. End rant about mosquitoes. I'm calm now.
Have you do you listen to the Conan O'Brien podcast? Conan O'Brien needs a friend.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
the he will he alternates between talking to celebrity guests and everyday people like fans of the show and people who want to write in and ask him a
Uh
question.
huh.
um I almost sent this to you. The latest episode is from a geology professor, and the title of the episode is "I Hate Richmond," and it's all about this geology professor who is like, I love my life, I love my colleagues, my job is great, I just hate Richmond. I would love everything else if it just wasn't so humid and there weren't so many goddamn mosquitoes. I fucking hate it. And I was like, I will be nice and not send this to Mer, but I did think it was very funny
I'll
because those
tell
are
you,
all of my complaints about your chosen home as well.
you know what? Honestly, I fucking love Richmond, but I don't love it in July and August. I fucking hate it like
Right.
a cesspool that should just sink into the ocean. It is a horrible place. It's a horrible place. during those
Oh,
2 months.
the poor mosquitoes. Ay, ay,
No one
ay.
likes them. No one likes them.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
They're the worst. I hope they all get sterilized.
Yeah, they're like turkeys. They should all be eradicated off the face of the planet.
Do you know that our mom actually, knows exactly the distance that you're allowed to fire a gun from your property because of turkeys? Because
She's
she
like,
was
I don't
talking.
have any guns, but if I did, some turkeys would be getting their heads blowed off.
She one morning, she was bitching about the turkeys per usual and was, like, going out into the yard in her bathrobe to, like, yell at them and get them away from the house, which, like, looked insane, and I was pissing myself laughing. I love you, mom. Um, and she came back inside and I was like, "Mom, why don't you just, like, shoot the goddamn things?" And she was like, "It's illegal to use a firearm within 50 feet of a structure. Otherwise, I would, because there's nowhere on this property that's 50 feet from a structure, mine or anybody else's, so I can't shoot them. So here's what I just have to they're." She was like, "Stupid fucking giant bird rats, I hate them." And I was like, "I know they are trash. They are
I, th-
horrible creatures."
I think she needs to build a giant like what do they call it on a ship, a crow's nest, like up in the tree that is like
She can just
exactly
like
50
pop
feet
them
away
off
from the
from
house,
the
like up in
giant
the
crow's
air,
nest.
so that she can have like a prison yard,
She needs
like
like she needs
outpost
a
to just
fucking
like
sniper
snipe
nest.
turkeys in the yard. Like
Maybe that could be her retirement
this has become
activity.
Guantanamo for turkeys.
Honestly, like I don't think she'd be opposed to it.
Yeah.
Um uh
That'll be our next Christmas present for her,
oh
building
my
a
god,
crow's nest in the
yes.
oak tree to kill turkeys from.
Yes. Just kill those motherfuckers.
Yeah,
Um
they deserve to die.
they deserve
Yes,
to
they
die.
deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Is that
That's
a
a
thing our mother
Samuel.
has said, or it
No,
sounds like a thing
that's
our
a
mother would say?
that's a Sam Jackson line from A Time
Oh,
to
yeah.
Kill, and then made secondarily popular in the Sam Jackson beer ad from the Chappelle Show. So yes, they
Love it.
deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell. Anyway, great stuff. Thank you,
That
Sam
is Marta
Jackson,
Kerniff.
American hero.
American hero. Yeah, no, that is how Marta Kerniff feels about wild turkeys in Sonoma County. All right. Do we want to talk about the themes? Do we want to talk about quotes, themes, or scenes? I feel like we're coming, I don't know. I feel like I'm coming to the end maybe, but of what I have to
Yeah,
say
me
about
too.
the
Yeah,
movie.
let's talk a little bit about some themes and what we got out of the movie. One of the things that I got out of watching the movie this time was about Stitch's journey,
Yeah.
which I think is like, what does it mean when you are like built to be a destructive force and the opportunity to destroy is taken away from you or is not around, and obviously people aren't genetically engineered like that, so you can't. So maybe the analogy is more like, what what do you do when you're an angry person, when you're angry at the world, but your anger has nowhere to go anymore? And I think
Mhm.
that's where Stitch finds himself throughout the course of the movie, because it's like there is something, and especially as like, I mean, I'm sure everybody gets this, but especially as like a little boy, I just recall having just such a fascination with just like breaking things, it's like it's in the DNA of little boys to just want to smash windows and hit things with baseball bats and stuff like that. And there's like a demonic fun, like a manic excitement about that kind of thing, of like anything around me I can just crush, I have power over it,
Yeah.
which is great that they capture that spirit in Stitch in his sort of the first
Mhm.
images you get of his characterization, but what happens to a person or a creature or whatever when you're taken out of that environment and you're put in among loving people and calm environments. Like what happens when you're in a position where you're like forced to meditate or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And I got a lot out of that story of watching, you know, this time watching Stitch go from a person and who also sometimes can't help their destructive abilities, right? Like it,
Mhm.
you know, the mere fact of his existence destroys Lilo and Nani's house. And of course, that's where the apex of the conflict between
Yeah.
Lilo and Stitch comes in. She's like, I don't want to, you know, like get out of here. I don't want to see you again. And then they both get caught together and are thrown
Yeah.
into the third act, and they have to sort of
Yeah.
Stitch has to get her back or whatever. But I don't know. I really responded to that
Mhm.
particular theme of the movie this time around because it is like there's something about your environment that informs how you respond to the anger that you have inside and whether or not you find it in your heart to, I don't know, forgive and forget, or to just, or if you're around places, sometimes it's just adding fuel to the fire. Like you can imagine what would have happened if he had landed in San Francisco or Tokyo, right? It would just be like,
Jesus.
I mean, that would also be a great movie, but it would be Godzilla. It wouldn't be Lilo and
It would
Stitch, you know?
no, it wouldn't be Lilo and Stitch. Yeah, it's kind of the, the classic debate of nurture versus nature. Um,
Hmm.
and I think in so many cases, at least as humans, very rarely outside of people, that are the Ted Bundys of the world, right? Those like deeply
Right.
aberrant, wild things, whatever.
Yeah.
Humans, like, we're not born good or bad necessarily. Like, our environment shapes so much of our behavior.
Hmm.
And having, yeah, I think having that kind of be like, hey, like, if you give, obviously not always, but hey, if you give more like positive reinforcement and more kindness and calmness, if
Hmm.
that's the feedback that you're giving to someone, it can help them sort of chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
Not always,
And
like I said, obviously, but it is a cool character arc to see that going from like destruction, chaos, can't like doesn't care about other people to kind of coming full circle and realizing, oh, like family is actually something that you make and I get more out of the world if I'm not actively destroying it.
yeah.
That kind of
And
is a cool arc to see.
yeah, and I think it feeds into the the theme of Ohana, because right, because
Mhm.
as we pointed out before, the story people, Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois, I still don't know how to say his name,
I don't know how to say it either.
uh, learned about the concept of Ohana, means family, etc. This sort of concept of extended family in Native Hawaiian culture as they were doing research trips to Hawaii. It was actually explained to them by like a guide, who
Yeah,
was taking
in
them on a
Kauai.
bunch of, I don't know, just yeah, guiding them around Hawaii and showing them stuff. Um, the idea that your family is a large web of interconnected relationships, and how an extended family is really an important part of that too, right? The family that you choose and the people you choose to extend your good graces to and to treat
Mhm.
with kindness and respect and to treat like they are your family. And and I mean, I think that is where the kind of what makes the Stitch's arc and the arc of the sisters interesting, because it makes it important that Stitch lands in their family, because as
Right.
they themselves describe themselves, like they're a broken family, but it's broken but good, you know.
Yeah.
um
It's
and I think that yeah, there's where there's when there's nowhere else for anger to go, and there's only like love and acceptance, and a lot of people need that who have never experienced it before. Like, to me, Stitch is a kind of, you know, analogous to a person who is alone and is lost, but
Yeah.
and has never known love that way, has never known family or people looking out for him. And
Mhm.
there's I think it's just a good message for kids or anyone of any age to remind yourself that, like, don't just be so myopic in your view of who you're responsible for, who you're supposed to take care of. If somebody or something comes into your life that's important to you, you can extend those good graces and that love out to them, and that actually changes their life, and it opens you up more. So I think it's a good uh
Yeah.
unconventional family dynamic again, which is great, which is always lovely.
Yeah.
And it was definitely
Un
kind of thing that didn't exist in movies at this time, represented, you know.
Having the sisters be the primary dynamic in this movie, I think is really important because, like, hey, they're both in a situation that neither of them really bargained for, and they are still family, but, like, that looks really different now, um,
Hmm.
than what they thought it would or what they want it to. Um,
Yeah.
Stitch is a creature that's been made and that doesn't, quote unquote, have a family, and so
Hmm.
doesn't have any of that connection, doesn't have any of that. Um, and so this idea of Ohana and kind of how that is portrayed, which I do think is really beautiful, and it's a very non-Western European view of family and community, which is, yeah, like an interdependent web of
Hmm.
people, right? And it's not just who you are related to by blood; it's who who is part of this like larger family kind of network that is really beautiful and unconventional in the greater, I don't know, greater narratives, I guess, which is again another reason that I think this film does work really well being based in Hawaii, pulling from the cultural heritage of the native people of the Hawaiian Islands. It's a
Hmm.
really cool it's a really cool way to express that. And I mean, there's a reason that we start our show with the line, "Welcome friends and chosen family," because chosen family is just as important as your biological family, if not more important a lot
Totally.
of the times. And having that community and having that community support around you is really, really important because none of us do any of this shit alone. Like we all become better humans and people and whatever. Like we're a social
Mhm.
species. We need other
Yeah.
people to be around us. And when that community that's around us is full of like love and support and acceptance and understanding,
Yeah.
it creates this like net that kind of helps catch everybody
Totally.
in a really nice way.
I completely agree. And before we move off of this topic and maybe get into our thoughts and takeaways, uh, we would be remiss in this podcast if we didn't take an opportunity to turn a discussion about a animated movie for children into some kind of leftist radical propaganda machine.
Fuck
So I,
yeah.
I would highly, I'm sure there are lots of books by native Hawaiians that about uh, land struggles
Boy,
and
oh
the
boy.
beauty of the natural environment and the sort of movements to get them together. But this whole discussion has reminded me of a great book that I recommend people check out by Native American woman, famous in her field, Winona LaDuke, called All Our Relations.
Mhm.
And it is about, I mean, at the core of it, it's about finding, uh, extending your thoughts of what your relations can be to not just your family and the people around you, but to the animals and the environment and the land and all the things that we are supposed to be taking more care of, and it's all tied up in native. I don't have a better word for it than the struggles, but the struggles to continue to foster love of the land, and in its
Yeah.
own small way, I think that Lilo and Stitch being a movie about you know the native within the world of the native peoples of Hawaii, and coming to you know love and care for a creature that is not your own, that is alien, has a lot of parallels with that. So check out All Our Relations by Winona LaDuke for more understanding of how we can be better stewards of the earth and better family members to the world around us.
Yeah. And I think this is, like I was saying, this is something that you see in a lot of uh, native, like indigenous cultures in certainly the Hawaiian Islands, Oceania, uh,
And I'm sure there's many great
Aboriginal,
books
Native Americans,
by
all of these things.
Hawaiian native
Yes.
activists as well that I just don't know them. So send me some book recommendations. I'd love
Send
to
some book
read books by
recommendations.
people like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because, Hawaii is the newest state. It was, well, I'm not going to go on my rant about how Hawaii needs to be an independent nation right now, but I want to. Fuck the Dole Fruit Company is all that I have to say. Fuck you, Dole.
Oh man, look it up. Pretty fucked up.
Pretty fucked up. Look what they did to Princess Kaiulani if you want to really get mad about imperialism. It's real bad. It's real
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Awful. So anyway,
Should we get into thoughts and takeaways on Lilo and Stitch, a cute movie for children?
it's a movie for children and not a
Not a
left
socialist
wing
rant.
socialist rant about
uh,
anti-imperialism.
oh
We
god.
can't not, like, is the thing, is that you and I,
That's
whenever
what
we,
like you've done it enough. I'm like, I want to get on this train.
oh no, yeah, this is an immediate, like, as soon as anything comes up, I'm like, but did you fucking think about this? Anyway, okay, thoughts and takeaways. This movie is fucking great. If it's a kids movie, are there leaps in logic that are like pretty wild? There sure are. And it's very heartfelt. It is very sweet. It is a beautiful film to watch, just visually speaking. The characters are really well thought out. And I love the representation of the siblings, especially siblings that have a large age gap between them, because that can sometimes mean that those siblings are not close at all, but these siblings seem like they are actually very, very close,
Mhm.
despite a large age gap.
Yeah,
Uh, it's it's so worth it's so worth a watch. Um, and I don't have any other like poignant thoughts and takeaways. I didn't like do my normal thing where I like write a profound, meaningful sum up. I was just like, it's really great and it's good and I love watching it. I enjoyed watching it again for the like 50 millionth time today.
totally. When you compare it to a movie it was up against in awards season, like Spirited Away, I obviously
There's like not even.
there's like so much more to say about that movie than this one. But as far as like American animated movies, I have a deep respect for Lilo and Stitch because it was weird, it was out there, it was an attempt, and a real attempt. Like you sometimes get, I mean, for for lack of a better word for it, like nerd face, like
Yep.
people dressing up as, putting on the veneer of nerds and pretending like they know what they're talking about. And there were many, I think, attempts by Disney to kind of like try to get um trying to get weird kid vibes and get the clout for that. But
Yeah.
this movie really is like, oh, Chris Sanders was a weird kid.
He
Like
was the weird kid.
Lilo is a weird kid. Like it's not like it's not like they're writing something they don't know intimately,
Right. Right.
and Stitches as well, kind of a weird kid prototype. Um, But in the pantheon of American animated movies, I really like that this one was one that got through the Disney machine and got
Yeah.
made because it represents something off the beaten path for Disney and was new and interesting at the time and celebrated family dynamics that weren't um, on display all of the time. So yeah, I got a lot of deep respect for the character design, the the cuteness and the weirdness factor, and also just the ever present and loving themes of family in the face of all odds.
Is it perhaps time, now that we're kind of rounding out, doing final thoughts, takeaways, etc., is it perhaps time for the best time of this pod, everyone's favorite time, which is
Tambok na siksi. Tambok na siksi.
vibe check? It's time for a vibe check.
It's time for vibe check.
Time for vibe check, y'all.
Vibe check.
I hated that. I mean,
Vibe check.
okay,
Yeah.
so for those of you who may be listening, for the very first time, first of all, welcome and thank you for listening. But
Thank you for
secondly,
listening.
I wish
I'm
you wouldn't.
Batman now.
Oh my god.
Vibe check. How are the vibes?
This
Over
is
at Penguin's underground lair. How are the
every
vibes?
time that people are like, wow, Evan is like so responsible and like so normal and like, oh, Mer, you're the weird one. I'm like, you don't get the unfiltered version of Evan where he is the fucking worst.
Interrupting me every goddamn second to
Every
do
goddamn
Batman
second.
voice.
I just need to fucking get through this goddamn thing. Okay, so we do not here at Brother Sibling Movie. We don't talk over each other ever, and we also
I love getting you off track. It's my favorite thing.
swear to God, Evan Orion Karna.
What was my thought? Your thought was that you needed to hear a Batman voice. Vibe check.
I swear to God, I'm gonna
Vibe check.
I cannot wait to slap you next time I see you. Just for
I
this
will have
moment.
deserved it. I will deserve it.
We do not rate things on a star or number system here
Nope.
at Brother Sibling Movie. We rate
No, sorry.
films on two things and two things only, and that is how is the story and how are the vibes. So, Evan, how is the story? How are the vibes?
Great and great. Love it all. 100% vibing.
Yeah, I got nothing.
You know,
I got nothing to add. Yes.
yeah.
It's
I love the surfing scenes. That was the most vibey part of the movie. And even though the song is a little stupid, like it still feels good to jive out to. So
it's just like
to
a fun
jam out
scene.
to. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
just a
fun
fun
scene. It's just
scene.
like just jamming in the waves, you know? It's great.
Yeah, and I'm like, I want to be friends with all of these people, and I want to live in this world. It's very beautiful, it's very fun and vibrant, and the story is heartfelt and gorgeous. It has great character arcs. The vibes are top tier, no
Word.
notes.
Yeah.
This season, because we also our theme is siblings, we have also decided to do a sibling scale, which we can rate however we want. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 sibling vibe. I've many times screamed into a pillow because I was so mad at you in our childhoods. Actually, I didn't scream into a pillow. I would scream in your face, I think, more often than not.
Yes. Yeah. Ditto. I mean, not about the screaming part, but about the sibling scale. Yeah. I mean, I want to just be contrarian and find something wrong with it so that I'm not just giving every sibling scale movie that I like a 10 out of 10. But yeah, it's 10, baby. 100%.
10,
Love
baby.
it. They're great at being sisters. That's a great representation of who they are. In fact, it's the most real part of the movie because it's
It
two
is.
humans interacting with each other. So yeah.
Yeah.
Solid. Love it.
Very solid. Well, thus concludes another episode of Brother Sibling Movie. If you would like to email us your book recommendations or thoughts or your takeaways or episode suggestions or anything like that, you can do so at brothersiblingmovie@gmail.com.
Yeah, send us native Hawaiian literature. I want to
I
read
would
more.
love it. Hawaii is a very interesting place. There's also like a whole like Japanese diaspora that happened there.
Mhm.
Anyway, it's a very interesting place.
Yeah.
So you can also find us on YouTube at Brother Sibling Movie. You can find us on Instagram at Brother Sibling Movie. Evan, where can the good people find you online?
You can find me at all the places under my handle Art of Evan K. I'm pretty sure
The letter
that's
K.
yes, the letter K.
Letter K.
Art of Evan, EVAN K, letter K. On all the things, the Blue Sky, the Instagram, and my website, portfolio website, artofevank.com. Check me out on LetterBoxd. I just looked at it. I haven't reviewed anything since December. I'm a way behind, so I gotta
Doing
catch up
great.
on my movie reviews. Doing great, love it. Yeah,
Doing
I'm so
great.
active. I'm so active on the internet, and
I know.
everybody loves
I'm
it about me.
I'm so active on the internet as well. If you want to follow along with my exploits of never updated Instagram, it's at Lawn Daddy Lives Here. There's underscores between each of the words.
Yes.
And I think that about rounds us out. So we hope you enjoyed
Oh,
this episode.
bef-
Oh, what's up?
yes. Before we leave, I just want to give a shout out to my professional colleague and acquaintance, Dean Fleischerkamp, whom
Yes!
I worked with on Marcel the Shell. I was the art coordinator for the art department on the stop motion animation shoot. And Dean is still a great guy. I got to work very closely with him. And after Marcel became such a huge success in the world of movies and animation, Disney tapped him to direct the live action remake of Lilo and Stitch, which will be coming out in May of this year. So
Which
I'm
is very
very
exciting.
I'm very excited to see that because Dean is a great dude and I really like his company and he was a great director. And I'm really excited to see what he does with this subject material with his voice on top of it. So, way to
Oh,
go,
go
Dean. I'm
Dean.
rooting for you. Yeah.
Go Dean. And hey, we didn't actually think about this when we were doing the episode because I didn't even know that
hmm
there was a live action movie. But I was like,
hmm
as we were talking about this, I was like, oh my God, wait, are we like really good at marketing? Oh my God. We're not.
I
We're
know.
not. This is just a movie we wanted to talk about, and timing is timing sometimes.
Yeah, not planned at all, but yeah,
Timing,
in another
totally.
month or two, we're gonna have a whole
Yep.
new Lilo and Stitch to watch. So this
Yeah.
should be very exciting stuff.
Yeah. But
I'm looking
good
forward
on
to
you.
it.
Good on you, Dean. Thank you
Yeah.
for being nice to my brother. Somebody has to be.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm not nice to myself, so somebody's got to do it in my place.
exactly. All right. Well, I love you.
I love you too.
And go watch a movie with your sibling.
Go watch a movie with your sibling and always remember that Ohana
Love
means
means
family.
family.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Goodbye.
It just like makes my ears itch.